Hey, folks, we're back. Oh my God, yes. We're here with what is going to be first of a series of bonus episodes because, we miss you so much. But we're going to start doing shorter episodes where we basically talk about or dismantle a known film. Maybe, once theaters open, it'll be a movie we saw in theaters. But for right now, we're going to start with, like more, I don't know if you want to call them classics, but movies that are conversation starters. So this week, first of all, if you don't know, Jeff Gallishaw here, Projector J1 on Instagram. And with me is my partner, Andre Joseph.
Andre Joseph, AJ Epics Productions. Follow me on AJEPYX at Twitter and on Instagram.
Okay, so we decided to talk about a cinematic classic spinoff that is called Karate Kid numero 3. But basically, this is the continuing adventures of Mr. Miyagi and Daniel LaRusso. I chose to dismantle or talk about this movie because all of you and all the fans of the franchise have discovered Cobra Kai. So I thought, let's talk about where Daniel LaRusso, before Daniel LaRusso is the Daniel LaRusso of Cobra Kai, what got us the closest to that Daniel LaRusso, which is Karate Kid 3, which takes place a few weeks after Karate Kid 2, and those weeks were hard on Daniel because he looks old. So I don't know. That girl really broke his heart in Japan. So he comes back from Okinawa with Mr. Miyagi, only to find out, hey, the apartment building we live in has been sold and demolished. Thanks for the heads up, everybody. And so Daniel's mom calls him, hey, you could come. I'm taking care of your Aunt Shirley in New Jersey. You can come live with me. But Dan's like, no, I want to stay with Mr. Miyagi. And mind you, he doesn't ask Mr. Miyagi if that's cool. So he stays with Mr. Miyagi, and they decide, hey, why don't we open up a bonsai shop? And, they're like, okay. Now, since you're a bit of a more expert on Karate Kid movies, what happened to all the cars Mr. Miyagi used to have that now that his house is desolate?
They don't really explain that, do they? I think it's like probably with the writer's strike, they just had that as an oversight.
Yes, because I'm like, if anything, he could have had a classic used cart lot and used that money and then finally retired and ran away from Daniel, who won't go away. So watching this movie, it's already like, damn, Daniel is supposed to, I take it, be 18 at this point, but he looks like he's pushing 35.
Yeah, he was 27 when he shot the movie.
Oh, see what I mean? And it shows, especially for someone who's not exactly athletic, but yet he's he's supposed to be the Sand Valley champion?
Yeah, All Valley's champion, yeah.
And that he's getting winded on a morning run during the movie, mind you. Now, okay, introduced into this plot is the villain, or not really the main villain, but the guy who trained the main villain from the first film, played by the ever-recognizable Martin Kove, and who is now suicidal or depressed because he's lost all his students. Cobra Kai is just a dream, and he decides, hey, friend who gave me the money to start it, here's the keys, I'm just going to go drift. And he tells his ponytailed financier, says, no, you're not going to go. I'm going to send you to Hawaii, even though we both don't like Asian people. And I'm going to get revenge on you. And here's where this movie, well, from what I've described, it already sounds like the writers of Saved by the Bell wrote this movie, because that's as much sense as this movie makes so far. So he decides, no, I'm going to get revenge for you, buddy, and he sends him off to Hawaii. So now we're introduced to the villain, Terry, whatever his last name is, but Terry Silver, played by Thomas Ian Griffith, who is actually a real-life kung fu artist. who barely does any in this movie. So, we got you here. Act. As far as I know, he wasn't a stunt coordinator on it or fight choreographer on this movie. Am I correct?
No.
Okay. So it's like, okay. So how do we know he's evil other than using a racist language describing Asians? Because he fought in Vietnam too. But he's in a hot tub with his secretary, and he's like, oh, tell them to put the toxic waste over here, and then hide it from the investigators. So very broad. So we still don't really know what he does for a living. We just know how he makes his money, apparently. So
he's like a Captain Planet bad guy.
But I'm like, okay, so he decides in his revenge that he's going to get back at Miyagi-Do by hiring this guy, Mike Barnes, who he sees in a fighting magazine, and he's going to be the face of Cobra Kai. Ha-ha! Even though, he doesn't train with him or Martin Cove's character, but okay, you're the face. And we know that this man is of scrupulous morals because he just comes there and is like, hey, okay, I'm going to fight for you, but I want more money. And he's willing to walk away. And then he's like, okay, I'll give you whatever you want. And he's like, okay, sure, then I'll say. And my favorite is that Terry Silver has ready-made henchman for him. What is the character's name? Snake or Screwball? Snake. Yes, because I'm sure that's his real name. Played by the director's son, and they're going to basically make Daniel fight and defend the title. Here's where plausible questions come in. Is there an over 18 category in this karate tournament? Because not only does Daniel look over 18, but so does Mike Barnes. And so it's like, okay, this is the Hill Valley whatever tournament, but it's like, what if a 15-year-old wins? He's got to go face LaRusso? And is there weight classes here? Because Mike Barnes is in shape. Daniel is skinny as hell. So, also the movie chooses, because it's a Karate Kid movie, Daniel has to have a love interest. And this girl who makes pots for the bonsai trees is way into him soon as they're introduced, that they even make a date. And then that night, she comes over and is like, oh, I just happened to get back with my boyfriend. An excuse if I've ever heard one. Because Daniel looks like a zombie. So all of a sudden,
too.
Hey, if you had the trouble with women that Daniel did, wouldn't you? Especially when this girl looks like she could be his niece. So
yeah, there's some backstory to all that.
Tell it. Go for it.
Well, I might as well just get into like the backstory of what went wrong with this movie.
Yes, please.
So, Karate Kid Part 2, that was like one of the top grossing films of '86 when it came out that summer. And of course, a hit like that, you got to have a third movie, right? So,
of course.
Apparently, the people that were running Columbia Pictures at that time were not big on sequels. They didn't want to do another Ghostbusters, and they didn't want to do another Karate Kid. And then there was another regime change that happened where they turned around and said, no, we want sequels to these movies because Columbia couldn't deliver any hits for the next 2 years. But the thing was, okay, Robert Mark Kamen, who wrote the first two films, and John Avildsen, they didn't really have an idea of where to take the story after two. It was like, okay, we reached this high point with Okinawa and telling more of Miyagi's story. What else can we do that's different? So there was this idea proposed originally where the story was supposed to start with Daniel and Miyagi on a fishing trip, and Miyagi telling the story about his ancestors in Okinawa. And then supposedly there's like a storm that hits, and Daniel falls off the boat, and he's in the water. And all of a sudden, I guess they want to make it like a Troy Hart movie where he goes back in time to ancient Okinawa, and basically it turns into Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. I am not making this up. This is actually in interviews with John Avildsen. and they pitched it to the studio, and they said, no way we're doing this. It's too expensive, too risky, and it's going to kill the franchise. We just want to go back to Cobra Kai and the tournament and all this other stuff. But by the time that happened, there was the writer's strike. So everything got rushed into production, and it definitely affected a number of the movies that came out that summer. And I think Robert Mark came and kind of just phoned it in. He said, I really don't want to do this, but they kind of like figuratively put a gun to his head and said, if you don't do it, we'll get somebody else to write it. So he went ahead and just kind of threw this script together of Kreese wanting to get revenge on Daniel Miyagi. And you could see from that movie that they didn't have a finished script when they were shooting it. Because, first of all, Ralph Macchio looks way out of shape. And maybe you could explain it by saying he was depressed with the girl in Okinawa. Maybe he ate too much food in Okinawa.
In a few weeks?
In a couple of weeks. Man was in a life or death situation. Maybe he was depressed. I don't know. And
that would have made a more interesting movie.
And they say he was pretty difficult, Ralph Macchio, because the rewrites were just making him go crazy. And
well, I know Robin Lively, who played the friend interest. She said she did not enjoy working with him on the film, and
I don't understand why she was cast, knowing that she was underage, and he had just gotten married, so he had this whole thing. He didn't want to start kissing other women on screen. But it doesn't make any sense. Why not just cast a girl of age to be with Daniel, unless he just didn't want to have another girl that they thought would just come and go if they made a fourth movie, which they did, but without him, and we won't get into that.
That's for another show.
Like in his performance, he just completely becomes an asshole. And I think that just goes with the rewrites and just things that are totally out of place with the Daniel that we knew in the first two movies.
Well, he's definitely whiny more. He sounds more like after he got his leg broken or whatever happened at the end of Karate Kid, because all he does is want Mr. Miyagi throughout the whole film in his low-rent Rocky impersonation. But also throughout this film, I'm just like, come on. They even tried for a theme song in that club dance sequence, which showed 88, 89. Clubs were sad in that area.
Yeah,
and bad dance. Yes, and it's choreographed by Paula Abdul, which I'm sure is not on her resume. Because it is like the most horrible, stereotypical white dancing in a movie I've ever seen. And we don't even get to hear too much of the song either. But yet, this is your theme?
Little river band.
The only reason I can see for Robin Lively is when they force him to sign as risking someone else's life so that he has to sign this contract. Now, also, I'm going to go into the logic of Terry Silver's plan. Now, I understand he wants to make Daniel's fist bleed, where Daniel's a total idiot because it's like, just keep punching these boards. Pain don't hurt. Now, again, this is a guy who said you're only supposed to use karate or kung fu for defense. But now he's teaching you how to cheat in tournaments. Nothing's coming to mind at this point. Like, maybe I'm being set up. Also, the other thing with this plan is, okay, you want Daniel to fight because you want to resurrect Cobra Kai. Okay, if Daniel doesn't fight, Cobra Kai would still win because you have Mike Barnes who's going to beat everybody else anyway. Right. So only true fans of karate are really going to be like, well, if LaRusso was in this, he would have won. But that's hearsay. So, and your Cobra Kai would have been successful with Mike Barnes as the lead. So instead, no, we have to beat Daniel LaRusso for revenge and to resurrect Cobra Kai. And Mike Barnes still loses by points because he's still kicking Daniel's ass up and down this tournament. And then you're telling me still people are like, well, I don't want to sign up with number 2. Why not, considering Miyagi-Do only has one student that isn't signing any new ones? And so you're still second. You're second best. And so this plan makes no sense. And you took an added risk when you could have just resurrected the business with your toxic waste money. And
But also,
So
a lot of
go
my
ahead.
problems with the movie are with Daniel and how that character totally regressed. Because first of all, he imposes the idea of, I'm not going to go to college. I want to help Mr. Miyagi, so I'm going to take my money and we're going to open up a pottery business. He doesn't really come to him
Think
about
about
it. He just does it, right? And then when he gets the invite to defend his title in the tournament, the logic makes no sense. He only did the tournament in the first movie to get Johnny and the other Cobra Kai off his back. All of a sudden now he's like, oh, it means so much to me. I want to do it. Yagi's telling him, no, why you want to waste your time with that? That made no sense. And in the hasty way that they have him come around, what, karate's meaningful for us. I'm not going to sign. That comes out of nowhere. And then, of course, he gets forced into signing because of Mike Barnes and the part with the bonsai tree. I mean, I don't know what they were trying to do. If the idea was that they were trying to make him have this false sense of confidence so that when he actually did face Barnes, he'd be scared shitless. I mean, these are the things that do not connect. And I think it would have benefited from a rewrite or maybe more Kreese in the background than just him being sent off to Hawaii. Everything was just so uneven about this picture to the point where, it no shit that it was going to kill the franchise because they didn't know where they were going.
I have some notes. First of all, I never saw any of the trilogy in the theaters, but yet I call myself a big fan. I saw
all on the table.
Yeah, I remember when 2 came out, but I remember being obsessed with the theme song by Dennis DeYoung, of all people, more than anything, and the music video. But yet, I did have the Miyagi headband, strangely enough.
I had the action figures, which I talked about in my toy podcast. My neighbor had the figures, and then he moved away, and then I found the figures in a flea market, and I bought the whole set.
Though, did you watch the animated adventures of the Karate Kid?
I did. I didn't watch it consistently enough because for some reason I felt like either the time slot was conflicting with another show that I was watching when I was a kid, or it just wasn't on long enough. But I do remember it because, first off, it went in the fantasy direction, like I was just talking about with the idea that Appleton pitched for 3. And also, it was the same animation company behind the real Ghostbusters. So I noticed they used the same sound effects. They used the same music from the Ghostbusters cartoon. And yeah, it was interesting. I think it's on DVD too, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh man. Well, not that I would seek it out, but I remember this about. No, I'm not going to talk about Karate Kid 3. Love the smoking jacket. But the thing with Karate Kid 3, what else did I write? Other than it's obviously a junior version of Rocky Syndrome. What is it? I take it this is some kind of moral victory that he won on points.
Yeah, and it was the wrong way to go. That's the other thing that drives me nuts about this movie is that, okay, I get in the first film, he's still learning, so he's not going to be superb against Johnny. The second movie, he's in a fight for his life against Chosen. I mean, Chosen's got a knife. He's trying to kill this guy in front of all the Okinawa people and nearly kills him with his fists and then humps his nose at the end. But he gets his ass kicked by Mike Barnes. How do you go from fighting for your life in the last movie to now, okay, understandably, you're in a tournament, there's rules and so forth, but you would be more experienced to fight a guy like that, and you're getting your ass kicked for pretty much a good 10 minutes before you beat him with a kata move. That's bullshit. That's a bullshit way to end a movie.
Exactly, because the only real victory is that we believe in Daniel only because Mr. Miyagi, because there is no other evidence that he's going to win.
You get me one scene of him beating up one of Mike Barnes' goons, and yet he can't be a badass in the rest of the movie. It's always a case of he gets his ass kicked until the very last minute.
Or he beats up a guy uselessly for hitting on a girl and breaks his nose, and then he wants to go and apologize.
Oh, yeah, that annoyed me as shit. Like, he's trying to call up the club. Like, where's the guy so I can apologize to him?
Yeah, I broke his nose.
Where's,
yeah. Like, yeah, they're going to give you
the info. For sure.
I'm like, Daniel. It goes with my next comment. When did Daniel become a lunkhead? Because this movie, he's stupid the whole time.
Oh my
which is
God,
why I say, Junior Rocky over here. I'm like, oh man, this movie. Oh, I have more notes. Trust me. Okay.
Well, Thomas Ian Griffith was like the same age as Ralph Macchio.
But I will admit, at least he did look a little older. He did look a little older than Macchio, though, at least. Daniel is also... Okay, speaking of taking things from Mr. Miyagi, why is he always borrowing his flowered shirts? Does Mr. Miyagi even have any fucking shirts? Because Daniel's always borrowing. Where the fuck are your clothes, Daniel? Like, did your mom take him to New Jersey? And obviously, wait, you want to start a business with Mr. Miyagi, but you don't have any money to buy any clothes?
He spent the whole college.
Come on. So, I guess it went all into that. So he was like, and not to mention, no offense, you and Mr. Miyagi are two totally different sizes. How is that fitting? Perfectly.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, he's a small guy. How does he fit into that? Especially with all the weight he gained.
I was shocked this movie got away with so much racism against Asians at the time because they never seem to let us forget. Oh yeah, they don't like Asians, the villains. Even though, didn't you learn the art of karate from Asians?
Yeah.
Just saying. Just putting that out there. Let's see. I'm trying to look through what we didn't discuss. Okay.
Well, the kid.
Let's face it.
I was going to say, the guy who got his nose broken was the kid from Real Genius.
Which one from Real Genius?
The nerdy kid. It's played by Gabe Jarrett.
Oh, the one who looks like Sarah Jessica Parker.
Yeah, the male Sarah Jessica Parker guy.
Well, that was his resume. Those two roles.
That's a long way down.
Hey, I went from being a lead in a studio comedy to random glorified extra with 3 lines. Also, he gives him this book. The whole book is thick. This is all about leg sweeps.
Yeah.
Because that's what he says it is. And he's actually studying it. It's like there's literally something as thick as the Bible about leg sweeps. It's only. So I was like, where the hell did that come from? All these troubles are due to Daniel's hubris. So it does show he was literally doing this with a gun to his head because basically he used the rule for all screenwriting act 2. Let's see. I take it the whole end of this movie is really a victory against fear.
I guess
because
so,
it's like
just healing the riff with Daniel and Miyagi. That's really what the story was.
So, okay, we talked about the choreography. Look, the dancing was passable for the time, but realistically, how did that pass muster? And how do you accept the check, Paul Abdul, with how it was demonstrated? How do you go from, I don't know which was first. This was probably first, though. How do you go from this to Coming to America? Or from Coming to America?
Too, that I think what also affected the movie, besides the writer's strike, was I think it was shot on a very fast schedule. Appleton had just shot Lean on Me, I think, in the later part of '88, and this went straight into production, like literally in the new year. So they had a very short schedule to get that movie out by, I think, June of '89. So that shows you, like, they really rushed that one out, and it definitely shows on screen. Because just looking at Ralph Macchio's performance and the way that he's, like, ranting and raving throughout most of those scenes, it's like they just air. It's like there was no script to follow. Just go out and improvise. And he came off like an asshole.
Well, that seems to be what Paul Abdul's job was. Like, hey, I just did Coming to America. I'll do 2 days on this. Okay, do this, and now all to the rhythm. Okay, can I get my check? Bye. Either that, or if she was running a agency, she had one of the assistants do it, but put her name on it. And also, from this film, I have a Cobra Kai moment. And I think Johnny should end up with Allie. This is just an off rant. I think he should end up with Allie. They grew up together. He obviously took her for granted, as she was his rock at the time. And she left for either a flirtation or something new, a fling with Daniel. But she has to prove her devotion back if she's going to come back in Cobra Kai. Not that she's been signed on to it, but that is just my theory. And it helps make Daniel even jealous, even though he's supposedly in a secure marriage. And
that's starting to show some cracks the way the season's looking.
Yes, and I bring this up, this Karate Kid 3 I chose because in January we will finally get season 3 of Cobra Kai. And
can't wait.
Which for people who watched it on YouTube, it's been way too long. But for those of you who just discovered it on Netflix, it's like, it's almost like, now tomorrow it'll be out. So that is all the things I have to say when it comes to Karate Kid 3. It was something that should have ended the franchise on a high note, but if anything, it damn near sunk it. And then the next Karate Kid, which was supposed to be a 90s version of a reboot, definitely did sink it up until Cobra Kai came along, in my opinion. Do you have any final words about Karate Kid 3?
Well, Thomasine Griffith is the standout, and the Bill Conti score is still rock solid, but the rest of the movie, it really is like a disappointing end to the franchise. But thankfully, I like the fact that Cobra Kai was the kind of show that showed that no stones are left unturned, and that even the events of that movie can still have implications for a far better storyline for that show. And so I think we can't just totally dismiss the contribution of the third movie despite its shortcomings.
I like you use the word contribution, but I'm just hoping if we bring back Terry Silver, can we have Terry Silver in an ascot again? And he's like,
I think we'll get that for sure.
But can Terry Silver please at least this time let Thomas Ian Griffith actually show off his karate skills other than in a set up scene for a fake mugging or a fake harassment? And if she had such a bad time making this movie with him, do you think Robin Lively will be coming, or her character could come back in Cobra Kai?
Yes, and I will say why. Because about 2 years ago, when the first season hit, she went on her Instagram and posted a picture of her with William Zabka, and she's wearing a Cobra Kai gi. I thought it was from the set. It turned out that it was photoshopped. But that already tells you if the phone rings, she will answer. And I think if she comes back, they should make her a villain and not a nice girl like on the show. I think she should totally, because of the fact that she kind of stiffed Daniel for the ex-boyfriend, I don't think she should be forgiven for that. I think she should go forward.
I was thinking that could be his temptation if Allie comes back and breaks up kind of his marriage through the jealousy. But then again, this is now starting to sound like fantasy fic. So let's actually see what happens.
And
Exactly. But let's see what's going to actually happen in season 3 before we have predictions or what we'd like to see. So this has been Unfinished.
The scenario with the Indiana Jones and Kingdom of Crystal Skull, like one of the original drafts, there was supposed to be a scene where you had Marion Ravenwood run into Willie Scott, and it was supposed to be like a cat fight of some kind. I think maybe we'll get that at some point with Allie and Robin Lively, and maybe the Asian chick from 2.
Oh, I think we'll be seeing her in season 3. Something tells me.
Yes.
Maybe Chosen will come back.
That's a guarantee. Just watch that trailer again. It's him.
Okay. But little known fact, that storyline of the unused storyline for Karate Kid 3 made it into Turtles in Time, the third Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie.
Yeah.
So at least they recycled it into another sequel that no one really remembers that fondly. So this is Unfinished Business, looks at Karate Kid 3, the cinematic classic adjacent. So this is Jeff Galashaw signing off.
Andre Joseph.
And we shall see you next time for Andre's pick. I wonder what it shall be. So until next time, folks. Oh, look out. So until next time, folks, we shall see you.